Welcome, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to be here today with each of you, welcoming you again to another essential conversation here at Wellbeings. I'm sitting here feeling how's the best way to present what's about to emerge today. And in true Nigel fashion, I have no idea. But what I will start with is a passage from uh, the book A Journey Back to Self by Laura Fredrickson. And I would just want to set the tone here. So I invite anybody who's viewing in here today, live or looking afterwards at the repeat, take a moment and close your eyes. Maybe even find your breath and follow it into your body for a moment. At one point or another on a life's long journey, many of us will grapple with the experience of becoming lost. Or a sense of identity may be upended by losing a long-time career or position, letting go of a cherished friend or family member, or we may be faced with an unexpected health crisis or a major financial loss. Whatever the cause, this becoming lost can pull our reference points right out from underneath us, leaving us despairing and disorientated. But there's a way. And today we're going to explore the way through the struggle to the other side. So today I would like to introduce our guest, Laura. Laura's been on quite a journey. She's had to deal with the loss of a dual suicide, her mom and dad. She also grappled with the near suicide after losing everything in her tech collapse. But these were catalysts. She used them as catalysts to redefine her life and sense of identity, to start to ultimately inform her of her life's real purpose, and then to guide others who got lost along the way. She has found ways to be able to deeply help people. Laura's global mission, and it's a global one, is to awaken people to the source of their freedom, to the source of their, feel that, the source, how would that, that just feels to be awakened to the source of their freedom, to fulfillment and well-being, and to initiate the deep remembrance of their innate value and their significance on this planet. Laura, come on in.
Oh. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so touched with the depth in which you shared. So thank you for allowing me to experience the wisdom that I had the privilege of escorting through my vessel at this time. So thank you.
Yeah, and a big subject that I want us to kind of speak to today, and I come from Northern Ireland, and in Northern Ireland and Ireland and the UK, suicide rates are on the rise. In 2019, there was 5,600 something deaths. 4,400 were men. And it's a 35% increase since 1999. And it doesn't seem to be stopping. And suicide is many things. It's interpreted in from lots of different spiritualities and psychologies as meaning many things. But one part of a journey towards suicide is getting lost or coming undone or wanting to end a part of them that feels so painful or so excruciating. So I would love to step into, just a little bit about that part of your journey that shaped where you are today, that's initiated remembering deeply within your soul, just to go back to these moments where suicide became a real thing for you, and some really, inviting you to let us walk with you and understanding that journey some more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there have been many, many junctures in my life where I thought that was the solution. And at the core of it, for me, I had inherited beliefs from my parents, from society, from the media. And, even back then, it wasn't as prolific. Media's effect in our lives wasn't as prolific as it is now. But I had inherited a very costly belief that my worth and my value resided in my bank account and in the external world, and was really wrapped up in, my home, the stock market, in a very codependent relationship that became abusive when, the financial stress levels got so much to bear. And so, I was raised, my father was an atheist. And so I really was exposed to a deep-seated notion that it was him against the world. And I was raised with my father literally saying it's us against them. And I inherited that operating system. And, I deeply believe with every ounce of my being that every single experience, as you mentioned earlier, was a divine catalyst, that there was a deeper through line, if you will. There was a purpose to my pain. And I had a very significant moment that was, a life-changing choice that I made. So when I had lost everything in the tech collapse, this was coming off of the dual suicide of both of my parents. I kind of refer to it like an energetic umbilical cord to my father. I was still very much caught up in the notion that my freedom, that financial freedom existed, and that my freedom was in the external and was, relative to my bank account. So having that experience of inheriting and seeing a man who had amassed quite a financial fortune, but was never truly free. He was always a prisoner to his fear. He was always caught up, in what I call the mental shackles of material preoccupation. And so for me, when after my parents had taken their lives, I set forth on the same trajectory of conquering money. I was definitely on my path to being the richest woman in the cemetery. I would spend most of my time isolated and alone. My life did become a ticker symbol. When my account in the market went up, so did my emotions and my mood. And when it plummeted, so did my mood, so did my sense of worth and value. My sense of grief and shame skyrocketed when I lost everything in the tech collapse. And that was the pivotal moment where I was plotting my suicide for 3 months straight. I'd stopped eating, was very, very isolated, alone. And I had a very powerful moment that was based in vulnerability. It was the choice to be vulnerable. And I opened up to my dear friend at the time, and I shared with her that I couldn't go on. The grief, the shame, the despair, It was all way more than I could bear. And I had that exchange with her, which allowed for an opening. It allowed for space. I felt witnessed. I felt seen in a way that I had never allowed myself to be seen. Something broke open. There was a breakthrough in that moment and in that exchange. And looking back on it, I want to say there is such value in deep presence and witnessing of another. And that value in witnessing of another actually derives from our willingness to be witnessed and to be vulnerable. And she didn't say anything to me. Nothing was said. I believe wholeheartedly it was my choice to allow the most desperate parts of myself to be seen, to relinquish the charade and the facade that I had been upholding, and to be able to allow myself to be transparent and to be vulnerable. That was the breakthrough. And to have her just witness me and see me, yes. And I believe there was a witnessing of myself within her eyes in that moment.
Yeah, let's just take let me just drink in that, just there's just so much here. I just want to make sure I digest it well because, wow, what a life just got, and for the viewer out there, like maybe you can identify, or for those who can identify or resonate, how things accumulate, how we can collect stamps along the way, collect these burdens and another burden and another avoidance and another busyness and another suppression and another withdrawal, or another sort of, throwing the duvet cover over something, and it accumulates over time. And I think we all do this to some degree. But what Laura is really talking about is the beauty. Two things that stand out from what you said that really moved me was, one, being able to have a presence there, just an ordinary person who's there, who in the energy says all of you is welcome. And in that, you allow yourself to be naked. You allow yourself to be seen. You allow yourself to make yourself available to be, for others to be interested in these parts that you may not love, you may want to disown, like the messy bits, the painful bits, that you were able to let the others see them. So then you're not alone. But another thing that's so powerful is that in them seeing them, you see that they can bear them, and it helps you learn to bear them as well. There's something about that, being able to hold them more when the sort of internalization that they're so bad, that's challenged in the exchange. There's such an alchemy that happens when we exchange with one another. And how often we're not in exchange, we're in defense, or we're avoidant, or we're displaying. But real exchange, what you're talking about, is, I think, the fundamental thing that we all need and that feeds us. So just to hear that, just to stand, I'm kind of got goosebumps here, just feeling into what a pivotal moment to get that lived experience that shaped you deeply.
Yes, and what occurred, and I just want to say, in our darkest of moments, we are filled with infinite potential. In our darkest of days, what our mind interprets as the darkest of days. And I love pie. I have to say my favorite pie is humble pie. That day, just being able to be so humble in my experience took the ordinary and made it extraordinary. And it was so incredible. And I left that exchange. I went and sat on my couch. And in front of me was a book I had never seen before. It was on Chinese numerology, which is the science of numbers. I discovered there's 9 distinct life paths, each with their own theme. I'm a life path of a 9, and the theme of my journey has been let go and let God. In the first paragraph, it summarized in detail everything that had just happened to me. You may lose loved ones. You might lose money in the stock market. You might be facing a natural disaster. But if you can learn to surrender and let go, you'll have the most incredible life filled with purpose and love and adventure and beauty beyond your wildest imagination. It was unbelievable. And I believe this came out of the opening. You know, there was a pinprick of hope. It felt that minute, but, you know, that's all it takes. You know, it's just like, just that release in that vulnerable moment. And moments later, this book I'd never seen before. And that was really the secondary aha moment. It was as if I was being watched. It was just so poignantly auspicious. How was it possible that I found this book at such a life-changing, pivotal time for it to recap everything that I experienced? And I did feel truth bumps as I read that first paragraph. It felt so incredibly real to me. And it was in that moment that I realized that there was a purpose to my pain, that there must have been something deeper going on. I had no idea what the purpose was at the time, but I was open to discovering it. I was open to finding out. And, you know, I think these are buzzwords we hear a lot now: surrender, let go. I had no idea what that meant. I had spent most of my life strategizing, plotting, controlling. So the notion of letting go, you know, I really didn't know what I was even letting go to. But I did realize that I was needing to die and that I needed to leave my body out of it. There was an aspect of the way that I was living my life. It was governed in fear. It was governed in regret. And most of my life was interpreted through my ego's interpretation and the illusions of my mind, of all the things I had done wrong, you know, all of the things that were perpetuating the grief and the shame about how things had unfolded. So in that moment, it was just too auspicious. It was incredible. So I started my adventure tour of let go and surrender. And how I realized deeper states of letting go was I spent time with my yellow lab. We swam in crystal clear lakes. I hiked 14,000 foot peaks. I flowed down rivers. This was in Colorado in the US. And I started to witness this pace of grace. I started to witness an inherent sense of well-being, like an undercurrent of well-being within nature. And one thing just sort of led to another. I started to realize the potency of my focus. I started to become more aware of my inner dialogue, how I was treating myself. I believe that life treats me the way I treat me. And so it was really key when I started to do a deliberate gratitude practice, which became the pivotal game changer. I mean, I'm just in terms of like a daily practice to steer not in the direction of lack and scarcity and all the things I could beat myself up about and shadowboxing my past, but really to try to steer and reorient my focus to what was working. And there were times where I literally would hold myself, I'd give myself a hug, and I'd look down at my feet and I'd say, well, my feet are working and I'm held up by the earth right now. But that gratitude practice began to cultivate a state of hope. It was a process and it was a practice, but a series of miracles happened in my life. People started to come into my life. One thing led to another. 20 years later, I am living the prophecy of that book. I am a work in progress. I have to, abide everything that I wrote about in the book. But my life is filled with purpose. It is filled with beauty. It is filled with love and connection. I am so grateful that I did not give in to the illusions of my mind. There is absolutely nothing in my experience that I don't cloak in a ginormous blanket of gratitude, including my parents' suicide. They actually were very much present for this book in helping me to co-author this book in a lot of ways. And to your point, and I'll close there for any reflections and to just give some space to this. The pandemic and these heightened states of mental health crises and suicide is, my parents' suicide and my brush with suicide is the ultimate zeitgeist of our times. And so I am the same age now that my parents were when they ended their lives. And I've just authored this book. I believe this is very auspiciously governed. I'm not saying that my parents' suicide was fated. I'm not implying that in any way. But I do believe there is a divine conspiracy. I do believe that there is a divine drama. I do believe that we cast characters and there are different acts within our own hero and heroine's journey that reflect back to us divine opportunities. My pain, every single experience, every single heartache I had felt like it was all an intentional instigator for me to have greater union with my innate self and my soul's worth, which is a whole other level of worth than even self-worth. So I'll stop there.
Feels like a 12-course meal. I'm just sitting with it and feeling into, this journey where you opened yourself and revealed yourself. And then with that, you open yourself to the mystery of life and the journey towards becoming in alignment with it and following, trusting. And sometimes when it all feels like it's all too wobbly, you look at your feet and you say, well, they're working. And I love that. I love that sort of visual, where there's still a trusting. So to the viewers out there, like sometimes we're in the washing machine of life, sometimes we are in the spin cycle, and doesn't feel that there's much hope. It doesn't feel like there's a way out. But one way is to take a step towards the other and to share the struggle, and then later on, I want to talk a little bit more about some key points from the book that's going to help people find that stability, find that way through, whether it's gratitude, whether it's soul worth, whatever, some real beautiful words you're using. I would love to explore them in a little bit greater detail, what that means for you and how it can help our viewers. So yeah, so there's this turbulence, even with the saying yes to it. That doesn't mean that it gets easy. And there's a way in which I'm curious. What would you describe the state of mind that helps you trust and move forward? In times, in the birthing of this book and months and years after this book, where there's where there'll be challenges and calamities. Like what's the, tell me a little bit about what is that state that helps you find your way through to trust your feet when everything else doesn't seem to be working?
Well, I'll read the book. I'll read the book. Just being a bit humorous there. For me, it all comes down to perception. So when I have been at my wit's end, when I have literally been, at the end of, I won't say literally because I never was at the end of a literal rope. It's a figure of speech, but one I'm sensitive to these days very much. I have come to, first of all, remember that life always rises to meet me, even despite myself, meaning even when I get myself so upstream in the current through stories, through projections, through any ways that my mind is trying to withhold love from myself. I always have the ability now to realize the power of my perception. And that has been one of the key elements for me, because anytime I am suffering, it is because I am looking to the external to be validated. I am trying to quantify my worth, and there's many different variables and ways to do that. Of course, the bank account is one of the main tripwires, has been for me, and I know is the cause of stress for most people. So for me, I'm always getting to the core of what story am I telling myself? What story am I telling myself? Is it life affirming? Am I being angel's advocate for my life? Am I being devil's advocate? And I actually will go through a process. I mean, first it's awareness. I mean, I give acceptance to the experience that I'm having because I'm human. That's first and foremost. I'm not trying to rush the experience and have a spiritual bypass, so to speak, or brush something under the rug. But I have learned in my work, guiding people for the last 20 years, that there is a very important discernment between honoring and having the awareness of how I feel and bringing acceptance to it, and processing and lingering in a self-deprecating story or continuing to tell a fear-based story that actually keeps that emotion and that energy active. And what ends up happening is I continue to attract more of the same. So one of the key things that I share with people is one of our greatest gifts. I mean, our heart is the first organ formed in our body. So I always say that's, let that remind us of the proper order and how to greet ourselves and how to greet our life with our heart. But the other thing that I feel we're so gifted with is free will. And the free will component, when we are in a state of awareness, because awareness is the greatest facilitator for our greater states of well-being. It's first the acceptance, breathing in the experience, and then it's really bringing the awareness to which type of perception do I have regarding this particular subject in my life. It could be relationship, it could be money, it could be career, health. And we have two choices. We can be viewing ourselves and our experience through the lens of lack, scarcity, what's not working, what's wrong with us, how did we, FDFF our life up, shoulding on ourselves. I should have done that. I should have done this differently. That perception of whatever we're focused on, if that is focusing in lack, scarcity, and what isn't working, our thoughts give rise to our feelings and our emotions. And this is hugely important because we are thinking 60,000 thoughts a day. And most people are telling the same stories over and over. And a recent study was done in Harvard. 48,000 of the 60,000 thoughts that Americans think on a daily basis are negative. 48,000 of the 60,000 are negative. And our thoughts are the inception, they are the origin of our emotional experience. And we can all test this. We could go to YouTube and queue up a video of golden retriever puppies that are frolicking and put our attention on that. We can see how that feels. And then we can put our attention on, a subject that doesn't feel good to focus on. So it's very important to see that our thoughts give rise to our feelings, which inform our actions, which produce our results. So the Einstein quote is, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. And I have found in my life and the people that I serve, the true insanity is thinking that our results are going to change from action alone. In other words, no amount of action can compensate for fear-based thinking and fear-based projections and perceptions. So coming full circle to your question, it's very important to have the awareness of what is the focus of attention. Where is the perception going? Are you focused in lack, scarcity, what isn't working? Not only will you suffer and not feel good from the focus of that attention, it will actually perpetuate pain and drama because we're vibrational beings. We're all on vibrationalmatch.com. And it's not about a perfection. I always say this to people. It's just about getting past that 49 to 51%. And there's something in physics known as momentum. And so when you have the awareness that the orientation, and bless our minds, we're creatures of habit, but our innate self, our natural self, is actually one to be grateful. It's one to look for the silver lining. And so we're either focused on lack and scarcity and what isn't working, or we have the free will choice in our state of awareness to focus on gratitude, appreciation, which is the highest vibration we can offer, what is working, and we will promote more of the same. But a lot of people are focused on manifestation, like, oh, if I do that, I'll manifest the thing. But what I found in my journey is there is nothing more valuable to me than how I'm feeling. And so when I choose to focus on what's working in my life and what I'm grateful for, I'm winning because I'm feeling good. But it ultimately will promote reflections of that greater state of self-love and awareness. And like I mentioned, wholeheartedly, that's the reason why I am living the prophecy of that book. I was able to open up. I was able to make that self-love choice. I was able to choose that for my life and to become very aware of the stories I was telling myself on a daily basis. So life treats us the way we treat ourselves.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. And often the way we treat ourselves is how we were treated. And it's wonderful how we can change all that. I'm loving that. I'm loving these. And these are going to be key things that are going to be documented in your book, right?
Yes, I have a chapter called The Power of Your Perception, where I go into specifics of that, and also the power of your imagination, which is an incredible resource that we have not. Well, I think a lot of people are using their imagination, but they're imagining worst case scenario. However, when we start to utilize it in best case scenarios and we start shifting and orienting ourselves more towards possibilities, it's an incredible asset and an incredible resource to get things moving in a new direction. Yes.
This is so wonderful that you're mentioning this, because this week, only in the clinic, although I feel it through the soil of our times, the sort of turbulence that we're in at this stage on the planet, that it's yielding or giving birth to a lot of hysteria internally, and hysterical tendencies are perpetually. There's always a little goblin hiding in the hedge who's coming to get you. There's always something that's coming that's going to take it away from you. There's always this sort of rendering of future fiasco. And we had, so one of my clients today says, how do I deal with this? This is like, this has been my whole life. My mother did this. My granny does this. I'm sure her granny did it. And I says, well, have they went to therapy? And he says, no, I'm the first one. I says, well, you're on the way. We're talking about it. We're starting to understand it, and starting to have a space for you to share, the origins of it. But to hear you talk about imagination and the power of positive imagining, it even sounds almost magical as you present this, because it's not just positive thinking. It feels much more than that. It has my attention as I heard you say that. It feels like it's very potent in just the way you put it. So it has me excited to want to read that chapter in the book. And again, for anybody watching, this is the journey back to self. This is the book. We're going to talk a little bit more about it. But that'll be some bedtime reading tonight as I imagine my way through my sleep time. So tell us a little bit, key things from the book that are important for the viewer to have an understanding of.
Well, I would say that the key message and loving reminder that I want to offer is that you are not alone. So if you are suffering, you're feeling extreme states of despair, you are considering ending your life, know that this is all part of the plight of the human journey. No one is exempt. I don't care who the human being is on this planet. Every single person on this planet has had what I would refer to as a choice point, a time of reckoning. And so it's very important to know that you're not alone. And I'm speaking in a 3-dimensional level. You're not alone. Your challenges, trials, tribulations, they are all gatekeepers. Every single experience that you're having, we all have the gift of being sacred alchemists. So one of my favorite natural totems, if you will, is the lotus and also the peacock. And we all have been given the same abilities as the lotus and the peacock. And the lotus has the ability of basically utilizing the murky waters to fertilize its bloom. And we have that ability as well, that which our mind defines as being wrong or off, or, something's not right, or we're off path. It's all part of the journey. The peacocks actually ingest toxic plants, and they're able to transmute the toxicity of those plants. I'm not saying they're necessarily toxic to the peacock, but they are toxic plants to other species. They have the ability to transmute those toxins into their gorgeous plume, their radiance. So if you are experiencing pain, if you are suffering, first of all, you're not alone, and you're exactly where you need to be on your soul's journey. And the time that we've experienced in 2020, there's a chapter in the book called Hindsight is 2020. This is and still is an incredible opportunity for people to reorient themselves to their essential worth, their innate value, and to really become deeply in touch with how incredibly powerful we are. And every single one of you that is watching, you are all so significant. There is no one like you on this planet. There never has been. The greatest fragrance designers in the world cannot compete with the note of each of you. And I say this in the book, but it's coming to me now. The syllable of your soul is sung in the universal song for eternity. I mean, this is how deeply valuable every single person is on this planet. And when I say you're not alone, I also want to say that, a lot of people are wrapped up in the 100% of our reality. 99% of our reality is in the unseen realm. 1% of it is manifestation. So the invisible realm, the realm of energy, the realm of vibration, is what's actually informing. So if we look at the essence of the word informing our material reality. And one of the quotes, "be in the world but not of it," is speaking so much to the vital distinction that we're not actually identifying with the things. We're not identifying with the manifestation of our experience. Today's manifestation is yesterday's vibration. So what we're experiencing now, because we live in a grace period and a buffer period, not everything we think and feel is instantly manifesting. Our lives would be totally chaotic and crazy. So we're given a buffer and we're given a grace period. And this is part of the free will campaign. This is one of the gifts we have in consciousness, is to start to devote our attention. Our attention is one of our greatest commodities. It's more powerful than intention, because we can have intention, but if we wake up every day and we're focused on lack, scarcity, what's wrong with us, what's not working, all the regrets from the past, we're actually at a vibrational discord to the way that the universe actually wants to shower us with blessings so we can experience the abundance that is our birthright. So coming to the 99% and the 1% of manifestation, it's very important. I do believe the tides are changing right now, because if you study the Schumann resonance, if you study heart math, you will actually see that in the demolition site, the renovation site that our planet is in right now, human consciousness is at an all-time high. It's off the charts. And this is all trackable now. You can actually see it. And like I mentioned, at heart math and the Schumann resonance. And so we're all being shaken awake, you know, and coming to the imagination point. It's like, if anybody has had a home renovation, or there's lots of those shows, reality shows, we know what it looks like to see the rubble and to have the old kitchen torn down. And what we're being invited to do is to keep our focus on the new kitchen, keep our focus on what we are creating, what is being renovated, instead of the old kitchen, you know. And most of us wouldn't do that. You know, once the walls come down, it's like, oh, we're focused on that new kitchen we get to cook with. Same holds true with what's happening on our planet right now. And so my last point on this, which it was incredibly relieving for me when I remembered it, and everything I'm sharing with you is not new information. Each of you are born with this, born knowing it. It is encoded in your DNA, which I call your divine nature always. You're packing your own multidimensional storage unit called the Akashic Records. And a lot of us, I want to speak to this, have had many past lives of pain, of suffering, not just in our early childhood, but those of us that are light workers, those of us that feel that we're here with a purpose and on a mission, that are championing love, or love evolutionaries, we have had many lifetimes where we were not celebrated for that. In fact, the opposite happened. And so, it's very important when we are feeling those deep moments of despair and pain and suffering to also have a cosmic perspective. This is not our first time at the rodeo here, the rodeo. We have had other incarnations and experiences that have been carried with us in our Akashic records. And right now, I feel, and I have found, and also with the people that I'm serving, that so much more of the wisdom gleaned from our last lifetimes, so much more of the light of what we discovered through our past trials and tribulations, we're going to continue to have more and more access to. So the 99% is really where the focus is. That's really what is generating new possibilities for us. And so I just want everybody to remember that the gratitude practice, being aware, you can put Post-its around your house, love notes. What are you thinking about now, my friends? Really just, and if you notice, oh, I'm on the negative Nelly train, or, oh, I went, it's just like, oh, okay, Got it? Just kind of reel yourself back in, bring some acknowledgement and awareness to that. But it's very, very important to know that miracles reside in the invisible, as our dear friend Rumi said. And there is no past and there is no future. There is the current moment, which gets our vibration is getting activated approximately every 17 seconds. Time is an illusion. So you're launching all sorts of powerful rockets of new opportunities as you choose that imagination practice. And you can play the wouldn't it be nice if game, which is also a nice bridge so that you're not focused on current manifestations, which may not be too pleasing to you or uplifting. It's time to just go within and never go without, and allow yourself to feel into more of what is wanted, more of what would bring that sense of freedom. And make sure to not get caught up in the why. That gets very, very exhausting to people. It creates a huge amount of overwhelm as we start dabbling in the universe's business of how something's going to come to fruition. So just allow yourself to marinate in the possibility of something else for your life through the wouldn't it be nice if game.
I love that. This all feels like a different type of marinade. Where, the marinade really deeply penetrates whatever it's carrying, so it can really help add to the yum yum of their life, or the flavor of their life, or the taste of life. And yeah, I'm really curious, where can people get your book? Where is it available right now?
For those that are in countries that have Amazon, it's currently on Amazon. I also have an audiobook, which I narrated, which is on Audible. But the easiest way would probably be to just go to my website, which is laurafredrickson.com. And everything is available there.
Well, I just want to have another experiential before we wind down for the evening, Laura. So I just want to. Oh, and by the way, there's some great guest writers in this book. Some great people.
Oh yes. Shall I mention one
of them? I've done a little bit of scribble. I've done a little bit of scribbling in the book, so I'm in the book for those of you who want.
Let me just share. Thank you for opening the door to edify you and others. There's a second section in the book, which is called Winging It. And I did interviews with psychics, mediums, Nigel McFarland. Some of you may know Nigel, Ricky Lake, and had a deep dive into what actually happens behind the veil, what happens when someone does end their life. Really important to me to remove the stigma around suicide. It's very important that we are able to speak openly about this and all of the shame and the judgment that has been perpetuated around depression or even the thought of taking one's life. I'm here to eradicate all of that with a huge blooming rose. And yes, so Nigel was interviewed, and it's such a beautiful, beautiful, tender share about your journey, Nigel, and some poignant moments around the rising rates of teen suicide, your thoughts on why more men are ending their lives than women. And so, yes, thank you for being a part of the wisdom in this book.
Well, it felt a great honor to be walking alongside you for a little bit and tapping into this collective need right now. And I want to invite the viewers just to take again another moment, just maybe a moment where there's a soft invitation to close your eyes. Maybe focus on that rose that Laura was talking about called our hearts, or maybe feeling into your breath and just really feeling into this place where, for those of us who are feeling depressed, discouraged, and powerless, please know that you are not alone. Please know that you are not alone. It's okay to not be okay. We have all been there. We have all been there. No one is exempt. It is part of the human plight and journey. This too will pass. This too will pass. And if you're passing by Amazon tonight, you can always click the link and read more in depth, sort of wisdom, direction. Laura, you talked about some people where they couldn't afford therapy. They were wanting to like block buy lots of your books. Could you tell us a little bit about that, just so that we can let people know about that?
Sorry, say that again. I didn't quite understand.
There was a group of women or a group of people wanted to block buy a lot of your books to help the people who couldn't afford therapy.
Well, I've been getting larger orders for communities whose suicide rates are escalating, especially their teens. And they're wanting to use the book to resource their schools, resource their churches, resource their spiritual centers, resource their communities, which I'm so humbled to be able to offer that support. You know, it's as close as someone's bedside table, and just been so heartwarming to have people. The book's only been out for 1 month. It launched on Suicide Prevention Day, but just have so many people share how it's saving lives, how they have hope again, how they realize they're exactly where they need to be, that there's a higher plan, so to speak. And so yes, the book, you can reach me on my website, laurafredrickson.com. And so if there's a way I can serve your community and allow the books to be shared on a broader scale, please let me know how I can serve.
So, Laura, thank you. Thank you dearly for this transmission, this sharing, this shining that you've shaped and sort of buffed, that's birthed this experience with me here tonight, and to our viewers, where you've been on your journey. It will still continue, but to stop in with you at this stage to feel this creation that's been born through your life experience, and how it will help others who are struggling in their life experiences. So I feel very humbled and with a lot of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for choosing this journey. I know it may seem like we don't always choose our journeys, but you've all signed a soul contract. Nobody has forged their signature. So I bow in reverence and honor for the courage that it takes to be human. And although I can't literally see everyone, I do see you, and I'm sending you all so much love.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Nigel.
So again, everybody, whether you're working in a school, you're working in the church, or you're in a community center, or you're in an outreach program, maybe you're working in a clinic, maybe you're in an accountancy firm, maybe you notice that there's a struggle where there's suicide, or someone has committed suicide, or someone knows somebody who's committed suicide. It's not just the individual who commits suicide, it's all of us that need to have the awareness. It's not just one day of the year where we need to have suicide prevention, or 1 week of the year, like this week right now, we're in Mental Health Week awareness. We need to have it all the time. So it's really essential that, to know that you don't have to be ill-informed. If you're curious to learn more, please check out the links below to avail of Laura's book. If any of you are struggling, you can contact Laura to her website. If you want to connect to us, if you're struggling in any way, we have a directory of therapists in your area, or you can talk to us here at Wellbeings. just to know that you don't need to be alone. And again, for the viewers who felt that you've got something from today's celebration, share, vulnerable openness, please hit a like, maybe even a share, or possibly a subscribe, whatever feels like what you want to do, because it really helps us touch other people, and it helps get our message out there. And the message really is, we all struggle, we all get stuck, and we all need help. So, and we can't do this thing by ourselves. So let's keep reaching out. Let's keep sharing. We'll be back here next week. We've a young shaman on the show, so that will be very interesting. So with all of you, wishing you a wonderful week of being vulnerable, real, open, and at times not alone. You can share your struggles. So for me and Laura, we say goodbye. Thank you very much.
Until next time.
See you.